6,471, the highest anyone has ever hit in Monster Hunter World base game. A project that has taken months to accomplish. Now, 2019, we're back. How much?
5,147.
Oh my god, without an agitator! 5,000 what? Yes! Crit! 5,600 and what? 6,400! We did it! No way! Oh my goodness! Finally, guys! Oh my god! It happened, guys! 8,000! It was more! Over 8,000! What's up guys, Chris here and welcome to the Highest Damage Number Project 2.0. The new Iceborne beta just launched on PS4 and we noticed how drastically the motion value of the True Charge Slash has changed. This move, which was already the strongest single hit in the game, became even more powerful. And due to the fact that Iceborne would finally bring G-Rank to World, we are pretty certain of being able to hit a 5-digit damage number finally. Cause let's face it, if we only take a look at the increase in raw attack of Master Rank Greatswords and that together with the purple sharpness multiplier and the new True Charge Slash motion value, it would have been so easy to get a damage number over 10,000. But almost half a year later, we would learn that this wasn't possible. Unfortunately, while Iceborne introduced many changes, some of them aren't exactly beneficial to reach the highest damage number. And no, I'm not talking about a damage cap. Let's get this out of the way first. There's no damage cap in Iceborne. In 2015, during the era of Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, we made videos on Deviljho or Fatalis, trying to take them down with as few hits as possible. But it wasn't until Monster Hunter Generations which introduced the Brimstone Slash, a new greatsword attack which was more powerful than anything we've seen before. And for the first time, we were actually able to push our attack value so high that we would hit an attack cap. Capcom implemented an attack cap in Monster Hunter Generations, which was 999 true attack, which you could see in your status. It wasn't a damage cap, but it was an attack cap at 3 digits max, which of course indirectly limits the amount of damage we could deal. But the game never just capped at a certain amount of pure damage. And we really have to differentiate here between attack and damage. That will be very important for the damage calculation later. And much like with Generations, a few years later we've come across the same roadblock in Monster Hunter World base game again. An attack cap. But this time, Capcom did it differently. Now before we dive into this, I highly recommend you guys check out the highest damage number video from last year if you haven't watched this one already. It was one of the most time-consuming video projects that I personally have done at that time. This video lays the foundation and explains exactly how damage calculation worked in the Monster Hunter World base game. If you've seen that video, you will be much more easily able to comprehend what we're going to talk about in this video. You can click here at the top right corner to watch it, and then return to this video since with Iceborne, a lot has changed. So, what's new? What are the differences? We have Master Rank now, so a whole new chapter of weapons to choose. Let's take a look at the best greatswords to hit the highest damage number. The only two options that seemed relevant at first glance were Brute Tigrex called Wildbite and Acidic Shredder 2. These were the only two options which had the highest base raw plus purple sharpness. But due to the fact that Acidic Shredder 2 is a bone design, it can have custom upgrades, which makes it 29 loaded attack points stronger than Brute Tigrex. Why the base attack of greatswords matter that much is because of the attack cap. The higher the base attack of a greatsword is, the higher our final attack value can be. In Monster Hunter World base game, the attack cap was 3 times as high as the base attack. And that allowed us to go pretty crazy, honestly. And while we did reach that attack cap back then, This cap wasn't that big of a roadblocker since we wouldn't have been able to go much higher anyway. But well, Iceborne changed that. Unfortunately, not for the better. Now, with Master Rank, Capcom introduced a whole new attack cap, which is only 2 times as high as the base attack. Meaning, with our Acidic Shredder of 1469 attack, we can't even reach as much attack as we did back in 2018 with the Devil Joe High Rank Greatsword. That is a huge nerf. So what we are seeing here is a max of 2938 attack that you can see in your status. When we found out that they had lowered the attack cap that drastically, that was a sad day for us. We knew that hitting 10,000 now would be pretty much impossible. With such a low cap, we didn't even have to use Evasion Mantle anymore. No attack skill, no agitator, no resentment. We didn't even have to use any of these skills. Rajang launched, and with it, the Great Demon Rod, a new greatsword with exceptionally high attack, white sharpness, and 180 thunder element. This release brought up many feelings. Excitement over possibly having a new greatsword which could surpass Acidic Shredder due to its high attack, but also a feeling of disappointment on the other hand, considering it only had white sharpness. A handicap which turned out not to be as significant as we originally thought. The Rajang Greatsword surpasses the highest damage number of Acidic Shredder, and the reason for that is that the potential of element this time around is much higher. 180 thunder is what will make the difference. Unfortunately, Best Boy once again is our punching bag. His weak point to cutting damage of 100 on the head when filled with rocks is still the highest one in the game. But now we have the Clutch Claw. So what is that gonna change? Here we've done some testing and calculation so we can show you guys exactly how the Clutch Claw works in terms of calculation and mathematics. The yellow line shows the regular non-tenderized hit zone, ranging from the lowest possible weak point, which is a hit zone of 1, to the highest hit zone of 100, which is what Dodo Gamma has. Now, if we apply tenderize via Clutch Claw, it will change this hit zone graph and then it looks like this. Remember, we are not talking about affinity, this is purely the change of the raw damage weak point. So let's take a look at the formula to see exactly how this works. Hit zone times 0.75 plus 25 equals tenderized hit zone. This formula that Capcom implemented is brilliant. It is not a proportional increase for every hit zone, but depending on how high the hit zone is, the Clutch Claw will change more or less. To see exactly how this works, let's put Dodo Gamma's hit zone into the formula. 100 times 0.75 plus 25 equals 100. As you can see, the hit zone doesn't change at all, and that is because Dodo's weak point of 100 is already the highest possible value in the game. To put this into perspective, let's take Rathian's hit zone of 70. The increase of a tenderized hit zone there is only 7.5, which is not that much since 70 is already quite high. And now, if we take one of the lowest tenderizable hit zones in Iceborne, which is the Broken Rockwing from Shara Ishvalda for example, with a hit zone of 10, we get 32.5. The increase of a tenderized hit zone here is 22.5 more, which is a lot. Basically, your damage numbers there will be more than twice as high as opposed to the non-tenderized hit zone. So what this formula does is, the lower a weak point of a monster is, the more of an effect the Clutch Claw will have on it, up to the point of 100, where the Clutch Claw doesn't change anything anymore, except of course the increase in affinity. This remains unchanged no matter how high the weak point is, we will always get the same amount of affinity. On top of it, elemental hit zones remain unchanged as well. Tenderizing a body part only alters its raw damage weak point, so cutting, blunt, and shot damage. It does not influence elemental hit zones at all. So, Dodo Gamma it is, and we are choosing once again a high rank investigation quest for Dodo Gamma. And that is because master rank investigations remove one detail which is really important for us: quest defense multipliers. These were present in Monster Hunter World base game, but they're non-existent anymore in master rank. Here in master rank, you will always deal the same amount of damage for each investigation quest. Flashback to the Damage Number Project 1.0, where we explained you guys how we tested the quest defense multipliers, and that exact same thing applies here once again. We are choosing a Dodo Gamma investigation quest with a 1.15 multiplier, which increases all of the damage we are dealing by 15%. The True Charge Slash. Its former motion value in Monster Hunter World base game was 2.11, which is still the case for Iceborne. However, if you land the small hits of the True Charge Slash before you land its final hit, the name changes and becomes True Charge Slash Power. And its motion value changes as well. And this is the most insane percentage increase ever, from 2.11 to 2.64. That is a whopping 0.54 on top of this already high motion value. I must admit, thank God this exists. Otherwise, we would have been fricked with the new 2x attack cap. So, Capcom, thank you for that. But Chris, how do you want to land the small hit of the TCS? You're gonna wake up Dodo if you hit him with a small hit before the big one. Well, that's true. But there are two ways how we can make it work. Option number one, have a small dead minion in your way which makes you land the small hit. And yes, it works on a corpse. And then land only the big hit on Dodo Gamma. Well, this works, but it's kinda tricky to set up. That's why we chose to go with option number 2, which is put Dodo Gamma to sleep at the perfect time while I'm already in the Greatsword combo, so that my first hit of the TCS hits Dodo Gamma while he is still in the animation of falling into sleep, but not yet fully asleep. And then the TCS power lands right after Dodo fell asleep. This way, we still get the 2x sleep multiplier and we get the TCS power activated at the same time. And you know the best part about this? This new strategy allows us to make use of another multiplier which we have never thought we would be able to take into account. We call it the sweet spot multiplier. Let me explain. You probably noticed that even on the training pole, you will be getting two different damage numbers, even though you're hitting with the same attack value and the same sharpness and even the same move. This is because there's another multiplier which increases your raw damage by 3% if you hit with the sweet spot of the Greatsword. Only if the middle part of the Greatsword hitbox, which is marked green, touches the monster, then we can deal 3% more damage. If the top or bottom part of the blade gets in contact with the monster, then it's going to be the normal amount of damage. So normally, if you are using the 2-charge slash on a sleeping monster, you will never be able to touch it with the sweet spot, since you have to stand at a certain distance to the monster when you begin the TCS combo to make sure the small hit doesn't wake up the monster accidentally. But that necessary distance to the monster will always lead to only the peak of the Greatsword actually touching the monster, and thus we get regular damage. But here's the thing, since we changed our strategy and we are planning to actually land the first small hit of the TCS and then the TCS power afterwards, we do have to be much closer to the monster anyway, making it in fact possible to hit it with exactly this sweet spot and get the 3% damage increase. Iceborne introduces two new skills, which we want to take a look at. The Volcana set bonus Frostcraft and Coalescence. Frostcraft, an aura of frost builds when your weapon is sheathed, raising attack, wanes each melee hit or shot fired. This skill has 3 levels, which gradually appear as the weapon is sheathed. On level 1, we have a multiplier of 1.05, level 2 1.15, and level 3 1.30. And the best part about this is, It's not an attack multiplier, it's a damage multiplier. So just like with the TCS motion value of 2.64, it affects us past the 2 times attack cap. However, there's one major drawback. Landing the small TCS before the power TCS will make Frostcraft drop from level 3 down to level 2 inevitably. There's nothing we can do, so we're losing a pretty significant amount of damage. But we would lose even more damage if we didn't go for the TCS power. So we will only be able to use Frostcraft level 2. The new skill Coalescence is a fixed buff for attack and element. Unfortunately, it's an attack buff, so it doesn't really matter that much because of the attack cap, but its element is what we need it for. I already touched on how important element is this time around, and that it's actually the reason why Rajang outperforms the acidic Lavenus in this specific use case. Not only does Dodo have a high weakness to Thunder Element on the head, Iceborne now also heavily buffed elemental damage overall, and that we can not only see on the new motion values, but also on the skill side. In Iceborne, we can go Thunder Attack up to level 6, which brings us to 320 Thunder. With Coalescence level 3, which increases element by 90, that would get us to 410 Thunder Element. But wait, this greatsword caps us at 330 Thunder already. So Coalescence actually doesn't give us 90, but only 10 more Thunder, since we reach its element cap. Great, man. Another cap, dude. So how does the element cap even work? As always, we not only did the math and calculations, but I also made visuals to explain it properly. The purple line here is the base element of any weapon, from 0 to 1500 element. The red line is the element cap respectively. As you can see, here from 0 to 250 base, the element cap increases proportionally until the value of 400. From that point on moving forward, however, the distance between the base element and its cap rises increasingly. That is due to 2 basic formulas which define how Iceborne is calculating its elemental caps. Every weapon with an elemental base value lower than 250, such as the Great Demon Rod, all of these elemental values will be capped out at plus 150 of their base value. All the weapons that have a higher base element, such as the Dragon Seal Greatsword, their elemental cap lies at a multiplier of 1.6 of their base value, meaning that the higher your base element is, the higher increasingly you will be able to go before you cap out, because it will be multiplied with 1.6 rather than a fixed increase of 150. If we apply this to our Rajang Greatsword with 180 Thunder element, since it's below 250, it will cap out at 330. So that is why we only need Coalescence level 1, since that is already more than enough to push us to the elemental limit.
We have waited so long for this day. We have been so patient. I have seen the future, and it is cold. You will be reborn, like me. You will become Iceborne.
We were out of our minds. 8,588. It seemed to be so perfect. Everything seemed to be on the limit. What we did not know was that this was not the highest damage number. The entire video was recorded, the script was written, the commentary was recorded, and almost all of the video was edited. And then we noticed we forgot one major detail which would get our damage number easily over 9,000. Something we would have never thought about, and for good reason. What I'm talking about are mantles. Back in World Base Game, we always used the Evasion Mantle, no question about it, since we needed it necessarily to hit the attack cap. But due to the fact that the attack cap was so low this time around, we didn't even have to use this Evasion Mantle anymore. What we did not think about though was that if we're not using this mantle, we are allowed to use another mantle, and there is in fact one mantle which will give us so much more attack that it pushes us over 9,000. The Assassin's Hood, a collaboration of two huge players in the video game industry, and it brought us one deadly tool. The Assassin's Hood does not only give us a boost in movement speed, but it also comes with a guaranteed crit and a damage multiplier on the first attack if executed out of stealth. Meaning, if a monster doesn't spot us as a threat and we are able to sneak up on it, then our first move on that monster will be granted a short crit and a whopping 1.5 multiplier. However, that is different on a sleeping target. On a sleeping monster, that 1.5 multiplier gets lowered to merely 1.1. A safety measure from Capcom to prevent exactly what we are trying to do here. To prevent anyone from going too high when pushing this game to the limit. But still, a 1.1 multiplier is really strong, and the best part about this, it also applies to element. So our entire damage number will be 10% higher. In fact, with this mantle, the scouter will finally say its power level is over 9,000. We've done our homeworks, we've done the math, we've done our own tests and calculations to make sure everything in this video is 100% on point. But now it's time to prove it. Are we going to get the highest damage number once again, and how high will it be? We're on Elder's Recess. With me, Michi with a status light bowgun and Visory with an attack hunting horn. As usual, I'm carding twice to activate Fortify, which increases attack by 20%, and afterwards eating for Feline Heroics to get another 35% more attack. In this case, we don't even have to eat for attack food, since we reach our attack cap anyway, so we'll eat for defense just to prove our point. As we do this, let me show you guys the skills we are using. Thunder Attack level 6 and Coalescence level 1 brings us to the element cap. Critical Boost level 3 will give us 40% more damage on critical hits. And here we see the insane quality of the Assassin's Hood, the guaranteed crit. We don't need any affinity skills, even though we are in the negative amount, we are going to get that crit on the first attack out of stealth. Handicraft level 1, which gets us a tiny bit of white sharpness, which is all we need for one hit. Fortify, which allows us to increase attack by 10% each time we die, it only stacks up to twice. And lastly, our two set bonus skills from Volcana. Critical Element, which was buffed in Iceborne and now gives us 50% more elemental damage on crits, and Frostcraft, which on level 2 gives us 50% more raw and elemental damage. Now we're going to get Nitro Toted, which gets us burning so that our HP drops below 10%, which activates Feline Heroics, and once we cancel the burn, we'll activate Coalescence level 1 at the same time. Coalescence activates as soon as you lose a blight, and it will remain for 90 seconds. So that means we have 90 seconds to get our hit. Man, that's like a walk in the park for us. Remember last year when we had less than 20 seconds because of the Might Pill and Evasion Mantle? Dude, honestly, you know what? Thanks for the attack cap. Thanks for making it easy for us this time around. Capcom, we appreciate you. Here, we are using the Evasion Mantle to make sure Dodo Gamma doesn't see us before we start the true charge slash to make optimal use of the Assassin's Hood. Now Viceroy is luring Dodo Gamma to us with Challenger Mantle, and he is playing the Hunting Horn attack buff twice for 20% more attack. Here, everything goes super fast. After doing that so many times, we already know exactly what to do. The Flash Bomb will make Dodo Gamma stop spitting out the lava and remain on weak point rock level 100. Checking the status, it shows us our attack cap of 3072, which is 2 times the base attack of our Demon Rod. And here I'm ready, so Mhwi is going for the para. I'm setting up my 90-degree angled TCS as I'm giving Mhwi the signal to trigger the sleep at the perfect time. And watch this. The small hit lands with 456 damage already. And let's pause here so we can take a deep dive into the calculation and mathematics behind all of this, so we understand how this damage number is happening. If you guys don't like math, I'm sorry, okay? But I'm actually able to make it interesting. Afterwards, you will understand exactly how damage numbers are calculated in Iceborne. As always, we are calculating damage in true attack rather than bloated attack. To give a short perspective, all of the weapon stats shown to us in-game are bloated values. So every weapon type has its own bloat value modifier, which will alter its actual damage value. Capcom does that to give the player a more casual understanding on how strong a weapon is supposed to be. For Greatsword, that value is 4.8, meaning if we divide our bloated base attack of 1536 by 4.8, we'll get our true base attack of 320, which consists of 310 weapon base and 10 augmentation attack, which belongs to the base attack. Once we have our base value, we are going to multiply it with our percentage buffs, which are times 1.2 Hunting Horn, times 1.2 Fortify, times 1.35 Heroics. And that gets us to 622.08. And now we're adding all of the fixed buffs to it. This order is really important since the percentage buffs shown here do not apply to any attack other than the base attack. So 622.08 plus 6 Power Charm plus 9 Power Talon and plus 12 Coalescence level 1. This all gets us to 649.08, but our true attack caps at 640. Why 640? Because this is 2 times our true base attack of 320. If we take the cap 640 times 4.8, we get our 3072 bloated attack value again, shown in our status. Well, now the game caps us at 640/3072 respectively. That is as high as we can go. But now we're adding the big guys, the multipliers. This hasn't anything to do with our attack cap anymore. These are damage multipliers. What they do is they take our max attack value and then apply all these multipliers. In our case here, only positive ones. And these then determine the exact amount of damage you actually deal, which will then be shown by the damage number as soon as you hit the monster. Man, we live in comfortable times. You remember the old games and all the mind-blowing calculations before the freaking damage numbers were a thing? Dude, this was so hard, man. F's in the chat for all the veteran hunters. Alright, we take 640 attack times 1.15 our high rank investigation quest defense, times 2 our sleep wake up multiplier, times 2.64 our motion value for the true charge slash power, times 1 on Dodo's head, which is the highest hit zone in the game so we don't lose any damage, times 1.4 damage on critical hits, times 1.32 our white sharpness. God damn it, dude. I can't believe I'm saying this. Look at us. We're at freaking master rank and we're once again calculating freaking white sharpness. How dare you make me do this again? How dare times 1.15 Frostcraft on level 2, times 1.1 our Assassin's Hood, and lastly times 1.03 our sweet spot on the middle part of the Greatsword blade. And this is our formula. Attack damage equals base times percentage plus fixed times multipliers. Now, all of these values influence our attack damage. We're now gonna put them into the formula and shorten it step by step until we reach 649 again, which gets capped by our true attack cap of 640. If we multiply these 640 by the greatsword bloat value of 4.8, we get to exactly 3072, which we can see as our bloated attack cap shown in the status. So all that's left is our attack multipliers along with our attack cap, which gets us to our final attack damage number of 9,357. Beware that Monster Hunter World rounds attack damage and elemental damage separately. So now that we know our damage number will be over 9,000, let's move on to the elemental damage calculation. Once again, we need to calculate elemental damage in true element rather than bloated element. The multiplier for true element is 0.1, so we're multiplying our 180 thunder attack from the Rajan Greatsword, which gets us to our true base element of 18, times 1.2 thunder attack level 6, then plus 10 thunder attack level 6, plus 3 coalescence level 1, and that gets us to 34.6, which caps at 33 elements. If we now were to multiply this by 10, we would get back to our bloated thunder attack value of 330 shown in our status. Now, the real deal, the element multipliers. Times 1.15 our high rank investigation quest defense, times 2 our sleep wake up multiplier, times 1.85 our emotion value for element for the true charge slash power. This was one of the new values which we calculated ourselves by making lots of tests in the training area, times 0.3 on Dodo's head, which is a very high hit zone for element, so we're quite lucky that our greatsword comes with thunder and not dragon like last year, times 1.5 with critical element on critical hits, times 1.125 our white sharpness multiplier for element, which is lower than the one for attack, times 1.15 the elemental multiplier for frostcraft, and lastly again 1.1 from our assassin's hood. The formula to calculate elemental damage is exactly the same as for attack damage, and so by filling in all of these values we are getting a whopping 90 for our elemental damage number. And come on guys, this is pretty good. I mean, if we compare this to the ridiculously low 14 damage we got with Dragon last year, 90? Good job Capcom, you successfully buffed elemental damage on greatswords. It is almost now 1% of our entire damage number. And finally, 9,357 attack damage and 90 element damage gets us to the highest damage number no one has ever hit before, 9,447. 9,447, the absolute highest damage number that you can achieve in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Now, before we end this video, there are two important things to say. First of all, while the Great Demon Rod gets the highest damage number, it is by any means not the best weapon or greatsword in the game. This here is a special scenario, and only for this specific use case this weapon is the best. As always, every weapon has its advantages and disadvantages, so this greatsword or even the build that I was using is not a recommendation to use in a regular hunt. I just want to make myself very clear to avoid misunderstanding, since apparently last year after we made this video, a lot of people assumed all of a sudden that the Deviljho Greatsword is unmistakably the best weapon for everything in the game, which is obviously not the case. And this is why I'm specifically mentioning this. I know most of you guys know this, but some people might not, so that's why I'm saying it. Use whatever you guys want to use whatever you have fun with. We just used this weapon for this specific video, and that's it. The second thing is, this video was recorded in October 2019, and Rajang is the newest addition to the game as of right now as I'm making this video. Our damage number of 9447 is the absolute highest we could achieve in this version of the game right now, but this can obviously change at a later date if another greatsword is being added to the game with similar raw attack, for example, or purple sharpness. This just needs to be said for future reference. Should that be the case? I guess only time will tell us, but you can bet your butts that we will be making another one of those videos at some point in the future. Subscribe, guys, subscribe! Now's the time to hit the subscribe button. This video took us a very long time to make, but I really hope it was worth it and you guys enjoyed watching it. A special thanks to Viceroy and also Michi, who helped me getting all these infos together and running tests in the training area. And thanks also to you guys always for so many likes and comments under our videos. I don't even know how many comments I've seen from you guys requesting this video over and over again. Thank you for motivating us every time to make the best videos we can come up with. With that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. Oh my god, I did it.